Stuff. What up, folks? How's it going? Midlife Crisis is back. We're gonna have a banger of a night tonight. I am freaking excited. Maddie is not here. You're gonna see somebody is missing from the stream, but he is still enjoying his holiday vacation. He is in good old Florida, chilling with friends, family, doing the good thing. He's actually moving there in about a month, I think, at this point. That's going to be awesome because that's going to get him super excited, and he's going to have more time to dedicate to this amazing stream and us building content and doing awesome shit. So I'm excited. We've got a banger tonight. Before I do that, who do we got in chat here? I see Star. And that's about it so far. There might be a couple of people coming, but I know Straggling Star, we love you. Thank you for being here so much. And with that being said, man, I got a couple fun facts about, are we going to go with, what do we want to go with? Do we want to go with Paul or do we want to go with your handle? What do you think's better?
The big cheese.
The big cheese? We'll go with the big cheese.
Call me Paul.
Okay, I'll call you Paul. He's also known as Alpha Geek. Alpha Geek and Paul. I got a couple fun facts about him before we get going. So one, we've added the resume. We used to do just fun facts, but just some background things about Paul so you get to know him as we bring up this amazing conversation we're about to have. One, he started sales in electronics, then moved sales to commercial finance. After that, started an event promotion company, which ended up being the second largest promoter in London. Got super into Thai boxing, but ultimately transitioned into recruiting, headhunting. Been doing that for the last 15 years. And that then culminated in starting one of the first hybrid headhunting firms in the world. So that's Paul's background. That's who we're going to be talking to, and I'm really excited about our conversation. But I got a couple fun facts, and I'm sure we're going to cover this too. One, he actually was technically born in London area, but was actually brought up in India. So he actually grew up in India, now is back in the London area. And then two, and we're definitely going to be talking about this because the fact that he is on this show created an alpha group that has notoriety in the space. Dude was homeless 15 years ago. So we're going to figure out how this journey got us to here, and we're going to have a ton of fun doing it. Paul, welcome to the Midlife Crisis Show. How you doing, buddy?
All good, my man. Just chilling. Looking forward to speaking to you.
Thanks, man. So, like I said, this is going to be super open and organic. We're going to start with the world famous midlife crisis question, which is, please tell us how you got to the seat you're sitting in today. Give us Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. Have at it, and I'll let you know how well you did in each episode, and we might go back, or we'll just see where the night takes us, brother.
That's a good question. And I actually like I don't like Star Wars, I like Star Trek. So
okay.
But we'll go with Star Wars for today. So episode 1, I think my life is in 3 episodes for the last 43 years, which is how old I am now.
I'm 41, so you don't got me beat by too much.
Up.
Yeah,
you're catching up. Technically, I'm Gen X and you're a millennial. So.
I am technically the first year of a millennial, right?
Yeah, you made it there just in time. I guess episode 1 was my youth.
Yeah.
Brought up in India for 10 years. Brought up by a politician, a really big politician in India, my grandfather.
Okay. And by the way, Echo's back.
Echo's back. Is that better?
Let me testing. Yeah, seems to have gone away. Thanks, brother.
I think it's my microphone gets too close.
Yeah.
So I was brought up by my grandfather, and he had a really strong character as in India to be a politician in India.
Yeah.
So you've got to be a character. So my foundations, everything about, you know, even now, a lot of the things I use at work when I need to make a difficult decision. I quite often think about, you know, how my grandfather would have dealt with it because you know, he was a bull.
Yeah.
So, and then episode 2 was like from the ages of about 10 till till the ages of 25. It was really lost, you know. Like I came from India to England, couldn't speak the language, hadn't seen my family before, hadn't known my brother or my sister, who were both younger than me, didn't know who they were. And then, so I found it really difficult, you know, to settle in. And I used to wear a turban, so it was like a little Indian fella 25 years ago, well, more than that, 30 years ago now.
Right.
Who couldn't speak English, wore a top knot, you know.
Right.
It was proper bullying territory at school. So that taught me some harsh lessons quite young in age.
What age were you at this point?
Like 12, 13.
Okay. And so you said that taught you some harsh lessons. Let's get into that. What were some of those harsh lessons?
Like stand up for myself. Like, you know, the bullying side. I for a couple of years, you know, used to just shy away and not stand up for myself. And then also, I guess the lessons were more about when I think it's not the lessons I learned then, it's how I interpret that experience now. You know, at that time, I just felt like life was unfair. But when I look back now and look at the lessons I learned when I was going through all of these battles and the character it's given me now, I see huge lessons that I learned at the time.
I love that, dude, because like, think about that, right? When you're so stuck in, you're young, right? And you're just like, F the world, this sucks. Yeah. But now looking back, you're like, hey, that helped me persevere, be hard. What were those lessons now that you look back that you think it really taught you other than the toughness part? Is there anything else that comes out?
Yeah, ignoring people. I really, I learned that. I learned at that point how to stop listening to the voices around me and just learn to hone in on what I wanted to do. You know, playing.
Sorry, man.
Playing
it's back again.
Playing sports at quite a young age. You know, and really trying to excel and push to a national level or whatever I wanted to play at. I was 14, 15 when I was doing that. At the same time, I was being bullied at school. I wasn't getting on, you know, at home. I was trying to get to know my dad. I was trying to get to know my mum. I was trying to get to know my siblings. It was really, I was in England as a 14-year-old without any of my surroundings that I'd grown up with. I didn't have a single friend here, for a childhood friend. Didn't have the two parents. Well, I saw them as parents at the time, but they were my grandparents. You know, they had brought me up, didn't have them here. So it was quite a lonely space, you know, but I think loneliness can be quite dangerous because you can start to enjoy it. Yeah. You know, you can start to really block out the crap that's going on around you and learn how to just, you know, in one ear out of the other, and you start to enjoy your own company, which
interesting.
Brings its own challenges.
Real quick, sorry. What I meant when it was happening again is I can hear my voice again. That's what I meant.
Oh yeah, no, I moved the mic away. Did that work? 1 second.
So I don't know. Are you listening to me on YouTube? Because if you are, you just need to probably turn that volume down too.
No, I haven't got it on anywhere else. It's just this screen.
Huh. Weird. I don't know how there's reverb.
Why is that mic picking up?
Okay, no, I think we're good now. It seems to have gone away.
Yeah, I've turned the volume right down on the laptop, so it shouldn't reach the mic.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. There was some volume coming through on the laptop, so you should be good now. Okay, but yeah, no, you said something fascinating there, and I think this is a good lesson. Take me through that, like getting used to being lonely, which I love how you describe this. Can be quite dangerous, right? So talk me through that a little bit.
Well, you get comfortable with your own company, you start to enjoy your own company,
Yeah.
right? You start to you don't have you're not talking to your friends or everybody around you about what serial you watched yesterday or what program you watched yesterday or how you wasted 3 hours just sitting around doing fuck all.
Right.
And you go home and people think you're dumb, people think that you're incapable, and yet you go home, you get changed, you put your kit on, you walk 2 miles to your friend's house, right? Your friend's dad grabs both of you, takes you to hockey training, you're training with the National League side, you come home, you get changed, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you're a 14-year-old kid that goes to school again, right? That's getting bullied at school. They don't know that. They don't know what's going on in my life. I know what I'm achieving. To them, I'm just a geek, Didn't know what the hell was going on in my life.
Right.
So it's not till later in life, it's not till 16 when, one of the teachers saw me play football, just messing around at one of the clubs, and then actually grabbed me, made me captain of the team, sent me to trials for football to a professional football club. And that's when people started to take notice, hold on, something, there might be something special about him.
Okay.
But then I didn't have a relationship with my dad. So, it was difficult because I didn't, your mind could, although I learned how to ignore everything else, I couldn't ignore the little voice in my head that wanted the attention of a dad.
Ooh.
Right. So, and that little voice, every time I would, and I would only get that attention from him, that time from him when something would go wrong. Right. So, why did I not become a professional football player? Because at the age of 16, when I could have done it, I decided to spoil it because I wanted to get my father's attention. Right. So, same thing with it followed through for a few years with a few other things. But so that was like the chapter 2 of my life, being in England for the next, from age till 10 to 25 was trying to get the love of my family, trying to get the love of my father, and trying to do everything I could to prove to him that I was worth it.
Right. And so you say something interesting there because, so I just love to hear your thoughts because, this, and I think it's a lot of things that people need to hear because there's a lot of people that get through a majority of life and have voices and inherently just angry at things, right? And I am firmly convinced a lot of that comes through some sort of childhood trauma or, not getting the love that you thought you needed from your parents, right? And mine manifested in a pretty massive depressive order, which really what at the crux of a lot of that spawned from my parents broke up when I was really little, and it traumatized me, and I buried it deep down inside, and I never dealt with it. Do you feel kind of similar?
What part of it traumatized you?
Huh?
What part of it? What part of their separation traumatized you?
See, that is, and that's the crazy thing. I think it was looking back. The reality that life isn't as good as it seems like, right? It wasn't as perfect as I thought it was. And then, just not having your mom there. My mom left, right? So like just not having two parents, I think is a really difficult thing for a young kid to go through, right?
Absolutely.
And I buried that down, right? And I didn't deal with it. So the reason why I bring that up is it's kind of, I read a similar situation with you is like you're yearning for that approval from your dad and you didn't get it and it seemed to affect you. So I just thought that was an interesting similarity because I really...
Yeah, 100%. It's very similar, the impact it had on me. It was tough. It's tough to deal with. And in fact, probably I learned, to put things in boxes and put them to a side. But at some point, you've got to start opening some of those boxes and dealing with them.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. I did a big box, man, and put a ton of shit in there, and I dealt with it, right? And so keep on going, man. I just wanted to point that out because it was just crazy to hear kind of similars and how it affected you. So take me through some of that struggle. Take me through, what happened there. You've got these voices. You're actually being successful at the athletics, and now you're getting into 16, 17, 18, 19 in your early 20s. What does that look like?
Yeah. You get into your late teens, early 20s, and you build up all of this anger over years, and you're just a spoilt teenage brat, that young kid that's great going into your 20s, ready to blame everybody else but take responsibility. And that's what that time was about. It was, I needed to make things go wrong because I had a need inside me to blame my father for something, or blame somebody else for something, and I wasn't getting attention from anybody unless something was going wrong, because who wants to know you when things are going well, right? Nobody wants to know. But when things are going shit, every single person is on the phone to you on the blower every 10 minutes.
Right.
So, and then they talk shit in your ear, and that was, whatever I started before the age of 25, I sabotaged. Didn't follow through with anything, didn't follow through with football, didn't follow through with hockey, went to Thailand, Thai box, didn't follow through with that. Came back because I didn't see any need, because I wasn't getting the one thing that I was craving, which was the attention of my father. Right? It didn't matter how much health benefits or what else it was bringing me. It wasn't bringing me that one thing I required, so there was no peace. And then that ultimately led to having made shitloads of money. You become lonely, and remember I said loneliness becomes dangerous. You don't want to spend time with anybody, so you start to go out to clubs on your own, and start to make the wrong type of friends, because they're giving you the type of attention that you're craving because you're spending shitloads of money, and etc. So age 24 to 25, in 1 year, I blew everything I'd earned in the 4 years previously, including the house, flat I'd bought, the car I'd bought, the motorbike I had, everything gone, right? Plus debt, right? And homeless. So that's, and 25, really being homeless and really getting my auntie helped me turn that around. Just really sat me down one day, and it was probably a little bit later, actually, probably closer to 28 to 29. I was coming up to 30. And I think it was just the fact that I was coming up to 28, 29. I sat down one day, I can't even remember. I was first on my own. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, fuck, it's Dad's fault. He didn't back me when I was younger. He didn't do this for me. When I was younger, he didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting on my own thinking about it. And I remember the thought clearly hit my head, but it's been 8 years.
Wow.
But you've been working for 8 years. It's not your dad's fault now.
Right.
Right? In 2 years' time, it's going to be 10 years. When something goes wrong, are you going to turn around to your aunties and uncles and your friends and everybody and say, oh, I fucked up the last 10 years, where my dad wasn't actually even in my life in those 10 years because I stopped talking to him when I was 18. Right. Who could? It was me. Nobody else to blame but me. And that was the first realization came to me, that I needed to do something. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's when I spoke to my auntie, who's my dad's elder sister. I had a really good relationship with her, and I spoke to her, and I said, I need some help. Yeah. This is what's going on, and she was going to India, so she bought me a ticket to go to India with her. We went there for 3 weeks. We didn't go to see any family. We simply went to all the temples, and that's what she was going for anyway. She was going because she was getting old, and she wanted to go to see all the temples in India, right? And just go and pray and just relax for a little while, and bring peace to the soul. Yeah. And so she bought me a ticket and said, right, you're coming with me. And while I was there, she drummed 2 things into me. Okay. Right. She said that everything I did was fine, but there was 2 errors that I was making continuously in my life. Yeah. Right. One was I was telling a lot of small white lies. You go out, you get used to it as you're young, right? You want to go out to do something with your mates. Your dad doesn't want you to do it. So you say, oh, Dad, I'm just going out to the shops, right? And that becomes a habit as you go older, right? And it turns into bigger things like, you're going out for a beer with your mates. You don't want to tell your mum and dad that you're having a drink or whatever. And you say, you try to make whatever it may be, it depends on what culture you come from, depending on the excuse you make. And that had become such a habit of mine that I started telling white lies about everything. Right. So in those 3 weeks, she said to me, "Don't lie about anything." And that second thing she said actually helped me achieve the first, which is that if you make an error or do something wrong, just face up to the punishments immediately. Right? No matter how harsh they are. Right? Because how harsh can they be? You might be the biggest thing that we fear we have is public embarrassment.
Yeah.
Right? So she said, "What? So what? You might be embarrassed." Second thing we have fear of is being hit by our parents or elders, somebody who's bigger than us, stronger than us.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "So what? You might be in hospital for a week, right? But at least you won't be living with 10 years of weight on your shoulders."
Tell me about it, brother. I did it for 2 decades. and it didn't end well, right? And it's that buried in. And dude, can't be more true with the don't lie about anything, and the facing up to the punishments is amazing too. Tell me, can you speak to me about, because we're there at the lowest points of our lives, and dude, I mean, brother from another mother when it comes to like experiences of us doing realizations, right? I cannot wait to continue to grow this friendship. But I always say the other massive thing that was helpful for me was a support network, right? And I had at least somebody in my life that believed in me and was able to help me get better. My number one being my wife. Now, most people that would have married to myself at that time would have told me to go fly a kite, and I would not be married right now. But she's still here. She's my guardian angel. Can you talk about that and the importance that was? And it sounds like this was through your aunt.
Yeah, having somebody you can turn to is really, really important all the time, or having at least a memory that you can turn back to that inspires you at your moment of doubt.
Right.
So fortunately for me, I've got both of those.
Right.
And initially, for the 15 years that I was on my own, where I really blocked everybody out,
mm-hmm.
through my own fault, I'd also blocked out my closest cousins and my closest family.
Right.
So I didn't really give them an opportunity to be there for me.
Okay.
And then so the first time I turned to somebody was when I turned to my auntie, and if I hadn't had anybody if I hadn't had her to turn to, I don't know what I would have done at the time.
Right.
There was no hope with anything, wasn't talking to my parents, wasn't talking to my siblings, wasn't really talking to any of my mates, didn't really have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what I would have done at the time. And second time that happened was just two and a half years ago, 3,
Right.
What COVID did, giving you all this time to think.
Ooh.
Remember what I said to you, started with, sometimes you got to open those boxes and deal with them?
Yep.
Well, I guess COVID gave everybody a hell of a lot of time to start opening up some boxes,
right,
whether you wanted to open them up or not.
Yeah. And the other unfortunate thing about it was you had to open up your boxes, but you might not have had as much support as you could have if you could have just gone and hugged somebody, right? Like you said, it's dangerous when you're alone for a long time as well. But to your point, it's absolutely was a catalyst for now you have no distractions. You got to start having some conversations with yourself, right?
Yeah. And this most recent one was probably where I needed my network more than anything else.
Right.
I was at proper meltdown, things at home going wrong with my wife. I didn't know whether I was going to see my kids for a few years. Touch wood, they're all back home now, so all problems sorted. But at that time, that was going on. I'd also just started my own business in September 2020, and then September 2019, and then March 2020, COVID hit. And so, and I just bought a house in September 2019 as well. So it was just all of these things piled up, and I just, just shut down.
I think a lot of people had a rude awakenings with COVID. But before we actually get to that, because I think that's another very interesting conversation with some life lessons in there. We're at mid-20s. It seems like a real big turning point for you was this 3-week trip to India with your aunt, kind of resetting. You're starting to get the mind right. Take us from there to COVID till when shit kind of hits the fan again, because that's another period there. I'd like to talk about that.
So we came back from India and the started to correct, and it was quite easy to correct the habits. I just decided that I wasn't going to do it. Yeah. Right? I just decided I wasn't going to. I just decided I was going to take the pain.
Because you were homeless at this point, right?
Yeah, that's fine. But what she put me up for a little while at home for a few weeks and said, "Go and get yourself a job." Which is then when I basically just made a CV and put it on a few job boards like Monster and Total Jobs and Job Site, and got a call from a few recruitment companies. And I knew I was good at sales, and I knew if I got an interview, I would get a job. I just needed to get an interview.
Right.
So I just went back to basics. There's one skill that I knew I had, which was talking to people and understanding people and selling. So I just wrote my CV and in a sales format with sales targets, etc. And got a call from a recruitment company, phoned me up, said, "Could you come in for an interview? We do sales recruitment. We recruit salespeople for technology firms. We may have a junior role for you to come in and start at this." And mind you, I'm 28 at this time, and I'm not 28, 29, and I'm not worried about starting from the bottom. Right. So I was like, fine, what's the salaries? 18 to 22K? Not a problem. I'll come in for an interview. Went in for an interview. They kept me there for 5 hours, the little cunts. 5 hours. Fucking interviewed me. Like 10 o'clock in the morning, one person interviewed me for half an hour. Yeah, okay, I'll be back in 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, it doesn't turn up.
A year. 5 hours is long.
Somebody else turns up. Then like 5 people turn up, and then the last person that turns up is the MD. Right, and then MD of the business, and this is a 500 people business, by the way, turning over 400 million pounds a year. Right, so it's not no small shop. So MD comes in, he goes away, then back comes the very first person that interviewed me, and he's like, right. So that wasn't actually different team managers from different parts. That was my managers and their managers and their managers. I liked you, and I want you in my team, so I asked them to do the interviews.
Sorry, hold on real quick.
It's all right.
Yeah, someone called 5 minutes ago. I'm in the middle. Okay, go ahead. So
yeah,
so 5 hours of interviews for 18 to 22K. You finally come back to the guy that started. And what was their explanation for such a insane process?
Yeah, because first, before he went away, he told me that the other guys he was going to come back, but he was going to bring in some other team leaders from other who recruited in different positions for them to speak to me too. It was only after the process was over, he told me that actually, no, that wasn't other team leaders. That was my manager and then his manager and then the MD, etc.
Right.
Because I liked you and I want to see if you would like to join our team. And I was like, look, I don't know what the hell recruitment is. I don't even know what I'm doing here, right? But I know how to sell. So, why do you want to hire me? And he goes, exactly that. We can provide you with the training because you can sell. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then that was it. I got the job in recruitment. I held various jobs for about 6 years, and then fifth or sixth year, I tried to set up my first recruitment business. Yeah. Which I tried to set up on my own. I was, again, still young, still greedy. Don't want anybody's help. Want to do everything on my own.
Ooh, I like
and then
that.
For 3-4 years, I ran that and found it difficult. To grow it. Like I could generate enough to earn a salary and pay 3 or 4 people, but by the time it came to grow it, I needed a manager who wanted equity and I didn't want to give it up, etc. So eventually I just closed that went and got a job again. Did a job for 2 years, and then the sales director I used to work for wanted to start his own recruitment company. And he offered me a job as a partner. I took that job with him as a partner, and that was my second attempt at setting up a recruitment company. I've worked at that company for 2 years. It's doing well. It still exists. In the first 2 years, the company turned over something like £3.5 million in its second year, and was employing about 12 people. And now today, that company turns over like £30 million.
Wow.
You know, it's like 9 years later, so it still exists. And but I had the opportunity. I think you guys have that show where you get the 4 people sitting in a chair giving money. We call it Dragon's Den.
4 people in the chair giving money.
You know, people go to pitch their business idea.
Yeah. Shark Tank is what it's called
Shark
here.
Tank. That's it. There you go. Yeah. So in the UK, we have something similar called Dragon's Den.
Okay.
And one of the dragons is a guy called James Khan.
Okay.
Who also, incidentally, happens to own a group of recruitment companies.
Okay.
Right. So I had the chance to go there and work closely with one of his brands, and I wasn't going to turn that down. A lot of people like ridiculed me at the time, saying that you've given up equity in a business to go and do this. But what they don't understand is I haven't got a degree, right? So 100% of my education has come from watching and learning from other people.
Right.
Right. There is no way in hell that I was going to turn down the opportunity to sit in the same office and work and learn by watching a billionaire.
There's so much I can't wait to hear about this for sure. So there's 2 things before we move forward. One, you had mentioned I was still young and made mistakes, and I wouldn't hire a manager because I was greedy. Looking back from that growth period up until what I think you just described was a great move, learnings from being young, trying to start your own thing, to the point where you said, I'm gonna lose some equity and go study under this billionaire. Thoughts about that phase of your life, and anything you would do different, or insights that you can gain?
I missed that last bit, sorry.
Or insights that you've gained from that period.
I use them all today.
Yeah.
You know, it's turned. I left that business. I got everything I learned from the last 15 years of moving to these various companies, working with various people. I worked with probably the 2 best recruitment consultants in the world in the last 15 years. I got to watch their habits. I got to watch what makes them good. I got to watch successful people. Before that, by being homeless, you know, I got to, it's all about who you surround yourself with, you know, and who you know, are the people that you're surrounding yourself with motivating you to take the next step up?
Yep.
Or are they sitting with you, drowning their sorrows with you and smoking joints?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to, whichever group you choose is the one you're going to end up like.
Ooh, right? So, I like that a lot. Yep.
So that's what's happened now, right? So I decided to learn and surround myself, you know, with people that knew more than me. That the key thing for every move I made over the last 10 years in terms of career was that there had to be at least one person in that business that had a better skill set than me in everything.
That great insight. And that's how you go into this, because at this point, all of these life lessons, you know, you're surrounding yourself with people. And speak, before you go into kind of this experience, speak to me a little bit here about education and your thoughts on education, because you got educated a totally different way. Looking back, would you go to university? Would you do things differently? Or do you love the fact that you learned from people?
You know, it's funny that, because I go through that thought every day at the moment. I've got 2 kids that would potentially go to university. So I've got to, you know, thinking about this exact question that you asked every single day.
Yeah.
And I think I made up my mind about 6 months ago that colleges and universities are not for education. Therefore, two things. One, therefore, building your network.
Yes.
Right? And two, they are to build a really good habit in your mind, which is the capability to get through a long period and actually follow through and complete something.
Ooh, I like that. Well, one, if you do that, and two, if the social scene, because I went to Penn State in the U.S., it's a, 80,000 person university, and there was every night an excuse to go drink and, in your words, fuck off, right? So but it can teach you the discipline to get through that as well. So what is your decision then? Yes or no for the kids?
That's up to them.
Yeah.
If they want to be like me, they won't go to university. If they want to be like something else, they will go to university. That's their decision. If they ask me Dad, should I go to university? I would say absolutely. Don't get arrested. Make good friends that are, well educated, that you feel like will get good position, because these are the people that are going to become handy for you. But in terms of work and how to make money, you're not going to learn any of that. I'll teach you all of that shit.
Oh, I love that answer. I love that answer, because I'm with you. I think that's a good logical way to look at it, because myself, my entire immediate family is all in education. They all work in the education sector or have worked for schools for their entire life. So we talk about
people like me being uneducated. People like them come and work for me. Right. So I now have 75 people that have degrees, that have master's degrees, and they all work for me.
Yes. And and you know what? That is okay, because we need people to do jobs and tasks, right? And their time, totally different mindsets, and it's okay. And, this is more along the lines of like Gary V principles and stuff, that like, you just need to figure out you and what makes you happy, and then go pursue that. And it's okay if it is 9 to 5, check in, check out, because that's just what you want to do, right? Because
main thing, remember the first lesson I learned when I was young? In one ear, out the other, learn how to be lonely. Doesn't matter where anybody sits. I don't give the shit what anybody else says. If I want to go out there, I before I came to do this job, so before I set this business, in between, I think there was a year in between after I got married where I took time out, and it was, again, I can't remember the exact year where it was, but I couldn't get my mindset. I think it was after I set the first business up,
right?
And I was working for myself. And because you're working for yourself, you don't have to wake up in the morning at the time. You don't have to go to bed at the same time, and you get into a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
Right. And so to get out of those bad habits, I knew that I needed to put my mind through some trauma, and I needed to take control. Right. So I phoned up my friend who did markets, and I started to do Sunday markets with him to sell calendars.
Okay.
In fact, we started for 6 months, for 4 or 5 days a week. I used to wake up at 2:00 in the morning. We used to trek down to the van, stock up the van, drive down to the markets, get there for like 5:00 in the morning, set up the stands, get all the stuff out, work for 7 hours, then pack the stuff up at 2:00 and go home. What I need, I didn't make much money. In fact, I probably lost money doing that.
Yeah.
Right. But what I did manage to train my mind on was waking up early, doing a good, honest day's work. And again, it's the lowest form, it's the lowest form of job. Like, you haven't got a degree, you're doing markets, right. You haven't even got a shop. Your whole family's looking down on you. Your friends are looking down on you. Again, I was building up my courage and my strength again, because I knew that when I stopped my business and got a job, the first thing that was going to happen is all my friends and family that are haters are going to phone me up and say, I told you so. Right? And I needed the strength to say to them, I don't give a fuck. I will do markets if I have to earn money. at least I can hold my head up high because I'm earning an honest living.
Interesting. And that was your version of kind of retraining your mind in essence, right?
It was like boot camp. That was like going to rehab for my head, doing markets, putting myself through that. And also, I there was not a single day that I had no choice but to turn up, because if I didn't turn up, my friend couldn't go and open his stall and make money.
Yeah.
He needed 2 people there. So I had to be there. No choice.
And it's kind of like the same thing is like, it's always easy to make an excuse at 4 o'clock to not go work out. But if you have a buddy that relies on you, it's a little bit harder to not show up at the gym, right?
Yeah, just imagine. For 6 months there, I had to tell before that I used to go out with my friends all the time, and then for 6 months, all of a sudden, I had to tell my friends on every Friday night and every Saturday night that I can't come out because I have to wake up at 2:30, and I used to go to bed at 6:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
In the evening.
Right.
So it brought loads of discipline into it, but you got to put yourself through that trauma to get over it. So all of those things led to,
studying underneath a billionaire. And the last thing before, because I'm really interested in this time, because you then made another decision to specifically retrain your ideas about your career by losing equity in your company and going in to do this. You've mentioned multiple times habits. And what I think is interesting to me, and this has actually taken me a long time to figure this out, right, is you read all of these business books and they eventually all start saying the same thing. Do affirmations, wake up early, have a schedule and a calendar. I have actually found out that some of those work for me, but most of them don't. And I had to create my own, but it took me a while for me to realize that I'm reading somebody else's copy print to their success. I need to, your own success is up to you, right?
Yeah, you need to read multiple books of those like that, and then decide which one works for you, I think. And most of the time you'll find parts of loads of them will work for you.
Exactly, right? But even that realization is tough for people, right? So what I'm interested in is what habits work for you? What have you found seeing so many different people do things differently? What are, waking up early seems like it came to the top. What other, 4 to 5 things can you rattle off that really helps you think, be productive and do what you do?
Number one thing is learning how to make yourself some sort of rough 10-year goal.
Ooh, I love that.
So I had to really sit there when I left Focus Cloud, gave up that equity.
Yeah.
When I joined Focus Cloud, I'd made up my mind, because at that time I was earning about 35,000 basic salary.
Yeah.
Right. So my goal was that within 10 years, I had to become a millionaire.
Okay.
I had to pay off all my debt and become a millionaire.
Right.
Right. But the first step for that was that I needed to get to earning a basic salary of 50,000.
Yeah.
Second step was I needed to earn 75,000 a year. Third step was that I needed to pay all my debts off using that earning. Fourth step was that I needed to get onto a salary of paying me 100,000 a year. Right. And then we get into, so there was step by step, right? So that helped me, because I knew that I wanted to take these steps to get to my ultimate goal. It helped me deal with the doubts in my mind. So when I gave up that equity, people said, you've given up a few 100,000 here at this moment in time, but I went from a 50,000 basic to a 75,000 basic. For me, yes, I was taking a step backwards in owning a business, but when I pictured myself, am I still on track for my 10-year goal? I was like, actually, I'm a year ahead.
That's awesome.
Right?
And that's a good realization to have, right?
Yeah, so it didn't matter to me, right? So, and then the next step, and then, I'm now probably 6 years into that 10-year plan. And, this year my business turned over £5 million. So, technically my net worth right now is probably about 3.5, 4 million. So I, started that plan to hit 10 years, but then followed it up with number 2, number 3, and number 4. And number 2 fuck the time that you have to get up, fuck the time that you have to go to sleep, fuck routine. Just make sure that the time that you're working, you're actually working.
Dude, thank you for saying that, because there's, Maddie and I talk about this a lot. I wish he was here. He would be just salivating at this conversation. Such a great conversation. Cannot wait to have you back on multiple times. But yes, there's always this, a majority of the time, if you don't wake up at 3 a.m., you're going to be a failure. And that's just crazy thought to me, to think that everybody does things differently and you need to figure out what works for you. But to your one point, I love that, is you really kind of hone down on when you work, you're working and you're not playing video games and you're not texting and you're not on social media. You're there to get something done and you have a task to get done. For me personally, I can't do that for 4 hours in a row. I think about 45 minutes is my window. How about you? What does that get work done mode look like to you?
Yeah, I've specifically trained my mind for several different things. I do stupid things like have cold showers in the morning and, to wake myself up and get going. And I've got to learn about my body and what makes me, you need to pay attention to your body. Like what makes you feel tired, right? What makes you lose concentration, right? And I found there were little things like fizzy drinks, sweets, food in general, having breakfast, having lunch, it threw my body off. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different things that count. Now, what I like to do is have, I guess it's different for me now. I've got one business that has two different businesses in hybrid into one. And now we're setting up the third business with Novus, which launched 2-3 days ago. So I have to manage my time a little bit differently because I've got three businesses to manage. So I can't also ignore the first business I've set up. So what I do is I get up in the morning, and when I get to my desk, my first sprint lasts about 5 hours, right?
Wow.
Nobody can disturb me. Nobody can come into the office. I have this 2-liter bottle of water, right? I have a cup of tea, and I sit down at my desk, and for 5 hours, you cannot zone me out. But what that does is between 8 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock, I've blasted everything out, right? And the reason I choose that specific time period is because all my competitors start work at 9 o'clock, right? Or they get to work at 9 o'clock.
Right.
So by the time they start working, it's 9:30, right? Because they want to get to the office, they want to take the jackets off, they want to say hi to their mates, catch up on yesterday's shows,
get some
have a cup of coffee. Exactly, right? But I start working at 8. So I have a 1.5 hour head start in cold calling and speaking to clients and getting all the interview slots and meeting slots for the day booked up before my competitors have even had a chance to pick up the phone. Right? So, but these are, again, it depends on how much you want to win, right? My vision, my target for what I want to build. I mean, I told you I had a target for 10 years to get to 1 million. Well, I've done that. I've had to reset that target to see, okay, what's my next target, right? So because I've reset it now, I just want to win, right? For me, second's first loser. And God has, over the last 25 years in his or her own way, has, blessed me with a hell of a lot of fucking talent. Right. Has also blessed me with the skills to go from being homeless to being where I am now, where I provide comfortably for my family and can buy what the fuck I want. Right. That I've had to use a lot of talent, a lot of mental strength to do that. And the biggest strength that I have is being able to communicate those experiences to other people in stories, which helps people understand and relate to it themselves. Ooh. And it helps them. And that's what I want to do now. That's my goal for the next 5 to 10 years, is that the way I'm going to become a billionaire is by creating the next 100 leaders. If I create 100 leaders, the byproduct of that will be that I will be extortionately rich.
Well, Good thing that you're talking to a redheaded ginger leader from the West Coast, California, and that we tell stories, because I think, and tell me if you believe in this one, I think everybody has a superpower. Now, the question in life is, do you ever figure that out and double down on it? What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's two things. I think it's number one, can you figure it out? And number two, which is more important, do you have the willpower to turn into that superhero?
Ooh, I like it. That's a great little add on there. But I will say it's damn hard figuring it out, because your entire life you're told what to do, and there's so much shit being thrown at you that you can drown out, and you can convince yourself that what you like or interested in is your superpower, and you spend a lot of time not just looking in the mirror and having that conversation to say, what do I genuinely like and I'm also good at, right? Because that's where greatness in my mind is born.
I think I was turned into a superhero by my grandfather at the age of 18 with one statement. I didn't realize it until a few years ago, right? But he made one statement to me at the time. I was having a lot of difficulty with my family. And my family don't even know this statement. So if they tend to hear this podcast and they hear this statement, there's going to be a lot of people heartbroken with this.
Oh, no. I'll make sure to not throw it to London right away.
I was having a lot of trouble at home, and I was trying to make the decision, do I listen to my father and live under his rule at home and change everything about me, or do I make the move and get up and walk out and take control of my life? And I was 17 and a half and 18 at this moment in time. Right. And I had a conversation with my grandfather, who was in India.
Yeah.
Right? He was the guy who knew my character. Although I came to England when I was 10, he visited with me several times and we stayed in touch. So he knew me best, and he knew I trusted his word more than anything. And he said one thing to me that even today, when I have a doubt, that's the thought that comes to me. He's like, do whatever you feel necessary. Just put your fucking mind to it, because when you put your mind to it, there is no chance in hell that you won't be successful.
Wow.
Right? So he said, and he gave me that confidence that day by just saying to me, son, if you want to move out, but make it with your wholeheartedly. I got your back. Go and make the move you want to.
Yeah.
Right? And that helps me till today, because even today, 6 months ago with Novus, so many people telling me your idea is too complicated, it's too far-fetched, you're aiming for too far, it can't happen. And now people are seeing it coming together, and they're like, oh damn,
this is actually a good idea.
Yeah, I bought my first house in September 2019. It's bigger than all my cousins' houses. It's bigger than most of my family's houses. And they don't know what to say now, because most of them for 15 years called me a dumb cunt and said he's a black sheep, doesn't have an education, doesn't know what he's doing, he's a lost cause, doesn't know, ain't going to go nowhere.
Wow.
Those same people now can't walk into my house.
Yeah.
My house is open to them. They, I don't say anything to them. I don't say
now embarrassed, right?
They won't phone me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Same people used to phone me every day. Nobody, they don't phone me now.
You ready for me to blow your mind? Like I said, we're kindred spirits from the beginning. The most impactful thing my mom ever said to me when I was little is exactly what your grandfather said, but I'm going to one-up you a little bit, because my mom sung it in a song to me. And I can't hit her pitch, but this is what she would say. And it is etched in my mind, but she would always say, if you can put your mind to it, you're going to be able to do it. So buckle down, do it. And she repeated that, and I will never forget that. And it's the same exact principle. So mind completely blown when you told me that, because my mom literally repeated that to me at least 1 million times. And it's so true. You just need to put your mind to it, because if you do, unbelievable things can happen. That's how I'm here on this podcast, right? I just said, we're going to do this. Maddie and I, when we were little, we always dreamed about how cool would it be to make a business with your best bud travel the world and have money to do whatever you want to do. And we reconnected through our midlife crises, hence the name of our show. And 2.5 years ago, we said we're going to do it. And now we're here and we're doing it. And we're going to continue to do it because we decided in our minds, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. So let's take it from, I'm very interested in the give up equity, the billionaire part, and then we can get to you finding Web3 and Novus Labs. But I can't miss the billionaire section because I think this is fascinating.
So the billionaire's name is James Caan.
Uh-huh.
Right. So I went to work for one of his brands for a year, and I learned there how billionaires actually don't make money by owning several brands. They make money by creating a central services area which can power young people who want to start their own brands. Right? So
give me an example.
So what can I say? So it's a bit okay. So what did he have? He had 120. He had 20 brands in one office, right, in central London, and each brand employed between 5 to 20 people.
Okay.
Right. So there was about 120 to 140 people in that one particular office. Those 18 to 20 brands that he had in the office, he owned equity in each of those brands because he was the private investor. And then the person who came up with the idea to set up that particular recruitment company owned equity in the business. So he owned shares because he provided the finance. They owned shares because they were actually doing the work and building the teams, right?
Gotcha.
So far, all makes sense, right?
Yep.
Quite simple. You're like, okay, that's not rocket science, right? Right. So this is where the rocket science comes in. Not only has he got 50%, more than 50% equity in the business, so he has to, because he's an investor, he insists on having a controlling stake in your business, right? That controlling stake is owned by a parent company, right? So what does that do? Well, number one, why is that rocket science? Because if he sells the parent company, he's the sole shareholder of the parent company. Only he benefits from it, right? How do the juniors benefit from it? Well, they benefit from it if anybody in the parent company ever decided to buy them out.
Right.
If somebody in the parent company ever decided not to buy them out, then they would never make money. So that was the first ingenious part of it. I was like, shit, this exit plan, the only person that ever makes money is James, right? The second one is, okay, that's long-term value, but how does he pay his everyday bills? How does he make money every day? Right? And this is so fucking clever because what he did was he paid for the office rent for the whole office for 20 companies. So he's not paying the rent per company. He's paying office for one rent and then housing 20 different companies in there. So he could technically split that rent 20 ways and get the CEOs to pay it. But that's not what he did, right? He created a central hub, a central team of 7 people. They provided accounting services. They provided operational services. They provided information, invoicing services, etc., and HR services, right? And he called them the Hamilton Bradshaw operations. This company used to charge his other brands a monthly service fee per person that was in that brand. So if you were the CEO of one of his 18 brands and you had 5 people working for you, you had to pay 750 times 5 per month to have those people in that office.
Interesting.
So he had 120 times 750 being paid to him on a monthly basis for services. And he didn't have to do a freaking thing.
Right.
He didn't have to make a single cold call. The onus of it was on the CEOs of the brands, and that's where he made his freaking money.
And so, so beautiful description. Thank you for breaking that down. What you're really saying here is he created a system that really pays for itself via different companies, smartly integrating the services across his brands and then ultimately owning them all. Is that
Yeah.
did I justify that in very shorthand? Is that about right?
He basically created a parent company that owned equity in several small brands, but rather than just owning equity, the businesses had a couple of conditions tied to them that you had to be housed in that office, and to be in that office, you had to pay £750. So you were like tied in, and
Right.
you know, and the thing is, these were young 25, 26-year-old recruiters who had really done well, who wanted to set up their own business, who know fuck all about corporate structure.
Right. And so he was building that system to give them the chance to grow, understand, and learn that. And that was back to your original statement of he created systems out of not just a company, but companies. And that's where the game changer really becomes, is when you can do this with multiple companies. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and that's where I learned that you don't necessarily have to know how to do everything. You just need to hire somebody that knows how to do it.
Yes, I love that. And that, hey, and that goes through, I would say my learning, I fortunately learned that in my 20s, I think still, but it's a hard thing to do, which is really, and a lot of people do go through this professional career. It's whether they want to embrace it and grow with it or not. And it's really when you come from the, so my background's in design and advertising and creative, right? So I was a designer for a long time. And when you go from designer, the person that does and does all the creative and the copywriting and making images, to telling the creatives what to do, that is very difficult, right? And it's a whole new skill set. And then you got to realize that your skill set is no longer needed. And now your skill set is, how do you lead and manage people, and other people can do what you do. And you don't need to know everything about design. You don't need to be a digital artist and a copywriter and a photographer. Like, there's people that are going to do it way better than you. And that is a tough pill to swallow. And I love that that's a learning that you believe in too, because it means I'm on the right track.
Dude, 3 years ago, I set up a management consultancy to do digital transformation, having never done a digital transformation in my life, or working for a management consultancy properly.
And take me through that. Take me to do it through a quick process there. Is it more you saw the business opportunity and then you hired to find the right people to make that happen? Is that kind of how it came about?
Well, I used to recruit people for management consultancies, right? So
Gotcha.
I used to speak to candidates every day that worked at these companies, so I could judge firsthand what their skill set was like.
Right.
And then going into a management consultancy for a little while and working, trying to work there, I was competing against people, you know, that had been working in the consulting space for years.
Yeah.
And I was beating them in sales, right? I was going and closing deals that I shouldn't. Right. And that's where I realized, actually, fucking hell, this whole consulting space doesn't have a single decent salesperson. Every salesperson comes from a consulting background, a project management background. They're not natural salespeople. They don't have that natural gut instinct. And that was it. I worked for a company, you know, the company that I was working for, I went, you know, it was in fact their two joint CEOs that I thought were dumbasses, and inspired me to set up my own company, because I thought, if these two idiots can start a company that's now turning over 100 million a year, fuck that, I'm going to be a billionaire in 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was literally the realization of sitting in front of those two idiots, watching them, listening to them talk to each other, and the conversation they were having. And I was like, I can't believe I work for these two clowns.
I love it. And I love that, everyone gets there. And hey, listen, man, I think a lot of people, corporate America in general, it's tough to stomach a lot of these conversations, meetings, because you're like, these people are making X amount of dollars doing what? Well, they're not doing much and they're repeating themselves a lot. And there's not a lot of thought process here. So I get that. Before we go, because I just did get a little update from my family. I'm gonna have a hard stop at 8, which is, by the way, people, this dude's in London. Okay, we started at 2 a.m. his time. You already know that this dude's a hard worker and he's a GD goat. I mean, this is insane that he didn't even, and he didn't even once push back and say, that's kind of late for me. I want to do a different time, because most people in his position come back to me and be like, hey, man, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern is not great for me. This dude didn't blink an eye, and we've been having amazing conversations ever since. So I do appreciate that.
No problem.
The reason
My
I
pleasure.
bring this up, though, is we got 45 minutes left, and we have a ton to go through still. So any last takings from this billionaire experience, because you've already given us a ton of great information. Anything else that you want to cap off this moment of just learning from somebody that has just such great insights that you're now applying today?
The biggest thing you learn working for these sort of people, because I've met several people like him at Deloitte and these guys, because I recruit for them, right, is you get to realize that sometimes you're afraid to talk to these people because you think, I don't know how to talk to them.
Right.
Well, if you're ever in that situation, just remember that these people go for a piss and a shit just like you do.
Oh, I love it. That's a great way to do. Yeah.
They are exactly like you. They are human beings. They go and get drunk. They go and do all the same shit that you do when you get home. They'll probably do it slightly differently, but they do everything you do.
Right.
Right. So just go and talk to them like a human being.
Yeah. I love that, man. And I think that is a great way to cap the billionaire lessons. And by the way, fantastic. This is the most exhaustive is that I can't say it right. Thorough episode 1 we have, because that's episode 1, man. That's your life. That's why.
Okay.
That's why you are the way you are, right? Episode 2 is you're learning from billionaires. You're starting to be very successful because you've built this rough 10-year plan. Now you find crypto, and from finding crypto to aha moment, I'm starting Novus Labs. That's our episode 2. So take us through that moment and period in your life.
Just before we start that, could you give me 30 seconds? I've run out of water. I just want to run to the kitchen quickly and grab some
Go
water.
for it. Take your time. You're our guest of honor. Do what you need to do.
Thank you very much. Just give me a sec.
I don't know, people, but this is one of, and I always say this, look, you're going to see double of me here because he shut off the camera, but this is a fantastic conversation. How you all feeling out there? You liking it? You feeling the content? Loving the content? And for everyone else listening out there, I posed the Twitch question. Would you all like to see us back on Twitch? Looks like the consensus is yes. He's back, baby.
I'm back.
All right, money. So, yes, episode 2. Take us through billionaire
Crypto.
lessons to learning crypto to before Novus Labs, and then we'll get into Novus Labs.
So learned the lessons from the billionaire, went and started working at the consulting firm, got inspired by my 2 idiot CEOs, decided to set up my company in September 2019. Everything was going great for the first 6 months. We did loads of business, started putting money in the bank. We hired 2 or 3 people, so there was now 4 of us. And March 2020 hits, And I remember the day clearly. We came into the office in the morning. We had 10 contractors running. We had multiple vacancies. We had loads of leads we were working on. And by the evening, we had 8 of the 10 contracts had been cancelled due to unmitigated circumstances because of COVID.
Right.
And every single job had been pulled, cancelled.
Wow.
Right. So the next 3 months, we do 0 business.
Wow.
Right. We do 0 deals. And this is where my team then turned around and said to me, I sat down with them and I said, guys, we've got like 20 grand left in the bank. You know, we can either now spend this over the next two months in salaries and then we have to close the business, or we can close the doors now, right, and put everybody on furlough on a government grant, and then we can open the doors again in 6 months when things are better.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could just put our heads down and go for it. All right. So being the idiots that we are, we hired another person and we went for it. But there was a key fundamental change we had to make in our mentality, because they all said we can only carry on if we change what we're doing, because we don't feel comfortable selling right now.
Right.
Right. People are dying. When we phone someone, they're depressed. I don't want to sell them. I just want to help them.
Right.
So I did the sums of I'd already done the figures and the sums into what we need to keep the business on break even. And luckily for me, because we only had 5 employees at the time, we only needed to turn over about £15,000 a month in order to break even. Right. So it wasn't a huge sum of money. And I had enough faith in my own ability to feel like I could do that myself.
Right.
So the other 4, I sat them down and I said, right, guys, your targets are now 0. Your job is secure. I don't care if you don't sell nothing now for the next 6 months. It's my job to lead this business. It's my job to make sure that we bring in money. What I want you guys to do is think about one thing for a second. You're a recruitment consultant, right? Right now, everybody in the world, everything is people are dying, there's depression everywhere. What is the one thing that people get when they talk to you as a recruitment consultant? Right? And just imagine that the person who you're talking to could have just lost their job. They could be thinking about that they're going to lose their job. There could be everybody they're talking to is talking to them about getting ill, about vaccinations, and they're not hearing anything positive. So what is the one thing that you're giving them for the 10 minutes they're talking to you? Right? And we established, as a team, that when somebody spoke to us during COVID, we were possibly the only person in their life that was going to give them hope.
Wow.
Right?
Man, that's
10 minutes of hope.
Wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So getting on a phone call, talking to them, I said, don't try to sell them anything. Just give them advice. Use your experience that now you've picked up in the last 3-4 years, and just give people advice on what they can do to help themselves to make themselves the next year better. That's all.
Yeah.
And we did that we started doing that. And as we started doing that, a month later, we won our first client with 1 deal. And the way we won that was one of the new hire we'd made actually phoned one of her friends who she hadn't spoken to for 6 months to just ask her, how are you and your twins doing?
Oh my God,
right?
man.
She went onto LinkedIn, looked at Mercedes' profile and said, oh shit, Mercedes, you do HR transformation? And she's like, yes. She's like, my company is desperate right now. Can you send me over a contract? We signed a contract within 24 hours. We got the first person on there. That company still works with us today, right? 3 years on, and has spent over $3.5 million with us over this time.
Wow.
And that one deal with that one company turned it around, because we turned that one deal into 7. That 7 deals at the same client turned into them referring another client. And then as COVID turned around, all of these people that we'd spend time helping, they started phoning us back and saying, actually, we've got something for you.
Yeah.
Right. And it just came back to us in abundance.
So a couple things there. One, what made you think about that? And then two, learning lessons from that experience. I mean, I think could be self-explanatory, but I want it in your words, looking at that moment, because that's super. I mean, you gave me a little chills there, man. Those two things. So one, what was it, the desperation? What was it that sparked, this is how we're going to change it? And then two, learning lessons from totally changing the way you do your business.
It all stemmed from one particular moment. It was a book. So actually two moments. You remember you spoke about having a network around you?
Yeah.
So over the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, I made sure that I put in at least 4 people in my network that I've built strong relationships with, who all are more knowledgeable than me in various fields. And 2 of them are actually more knowledgeable than me in my own field, right? So that's the first thing I did at that time, was I spoke to all of these guys. And then one of them told me to read a book called Gung Ho. Well, actually not read a book, listen to a book called Gung Ho. Right, it's a 3-hour book, audio book that you can buy on Amazon. And
who writes
that?
Because I'm writing this down.
I can't remember the name of the writer, but the book is G-U-N-G, and then Ho, H-O.
All right,
So
Gung Ho. It's on Audible, Amazon Books. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. So it's only 3 hours, and I guess that book helped me understand my role as a leader, as a CEO. And it also helped me understand a little bit about how to drive my team.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so some lessons, it was that one book. I just needed to understand what it's like to be a leader.
Right.
Right. Because you can learn all the skills that you want, but until you have to actually lead a team, it's difficult, Yeah, Kenneth Blanchard. Thank you, Saka. I know you're listening. One of our community members is listening and just put the name up for me in the server.
Nice.
But yeah, so that book helped me do it, and then I applied several lessons from that book. And in fact, it was that book that inspired me to get the team to actually think about what it is that they're doing. Why are they doing this job? Okay. Because my job as a leader is to simply always drum in the purpose, the why. Why are we doing this? Not the how are we doing this. That's up to the other skilled people that actually know how to do the job. I don't know how to do it. I just need to drive you to that one goal. This last year, I said to my board of directors that we were going to take my IRL company from 2.5 million turnover to 5 million turnover. And at the time when I made this business plan, we had 7 employees, right? And the board of directors, there was 4 of them, all of them more experienced, who told me I was living in cloud cuckoo land, right? But I didn't listen to them. I did listen to them to entertain them, but I didn't respond. I absorbed the information, ignored it, and then simply over the next 3 months went on to drum one message into everybody's heads: £5 million, £5 million, £5 million. And we did it. We did it by October.
Wow.
And now I've set a target of 15 for 2023. And they're again telling me I'm on cloud cuckoo land. And my response to this time is, when are you guys going to learn your fucking lesson?
I love it, man. I love it. It's so good. So, I mean, dude, you're a treasure trove of content. This is unbelievable. This is such a great conversation. Thank you for the time at the unbelievable time in the morning it is for you. We're now a half hour. So we're going to have to do, let's just do the short version of you finding crypto. And then let's spend a bulk of the time for Novus Labs, because the last 10 minutes I lied. I have 2 questions. They're very easy. And that's how we'll kind of close out the podcast.
Okay. So I turned the team around, started doing well. And which meant I had loads of spare time. So I had two choices: spend it with my wife or find something else to do. Right. So I found crypto.
Yes.
So April last year, crypto came into my life. It was introduced to me by one of my friends. It kept me away from out of my wife's there. So she was happy, and I was happy because I wasn't getting nagged at. And I started trading crypto in April 2021, and was one of the fortunate people that ended up buying at the very top. That was my first experience.
Right.
But the next 6 months, obviously, I found it difficult because I've crypto trading. You've got to just put too much attention into it.
Yeah.
And running a business, I don't have the time to that. I want to do something for fun. I didn't want to trade crypto to make money.
Right.
I wanted to find something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. So then about 5 months later, I was having a similar conversation with another friend of mine, and he said to me, if you want to just enjoy something, forget crypto, just look at NFTs. And I was like, what the fuck is an NFT? Right. And so that October 2021 is when I then bought my first couple of NFTs.
Yeah.
And then again, because I wasn't doing this for money.
What were they? Do you remember?
Sorry?
Do you remember? What were they?
Oh, of course, yeah. My first purchase was an Untamed Elephants.
Awesome.
Right. Second was Fame Lady Squad.
Don't know any of them, but I'm happy for you. My first one ever was
because they both got rugged as soon as I bought them.
Exactly. Same here, my friend. Same here. OX Vampire was mine.
I remember OX Vampire.
Do you remember that? I was a mod there because I was like, dude, this shit's way too risky. I'm just gonna start
Didn't
modding.
Alex Becker push them?
I don't remember, but they might have like they got super hyped, right? But by
they went
that
up to
time,
about 2.5, 3 ETH or something.
Yeah, but by that time I got scammed by a fake OpenSea agent, and I was like, I'm just gonna mod to get free NFTs. It can't be that hard, and that's how it all started for me. Okay, cool. So you get rugged. You're starting to learn the ropes, like you're going down the Twitter rabbit hole. Anything else to add there before the light bulb goes off to Novus as your NFT crypto journey?
Well, I don't think Novus was actually a light bulb moment. Novus was more my character, right? I came into the NFT space. I realized that I'm in a once in a lifetime opportunity, and in fact the opportunity that we have right now comes up 3 times in your life, right? First time it probably comes up in your life is when you're going to be too young, so probably about 12 to 14, 12 to 16 years old. You've had the last .com boom. I was too young to know how to take advantage of it.
Right.
Second time it comes around is like now. I've got experience, I've got knowledge, I've got all the tools I need to actually take advantage of this. And the next time it comes around is probably when I'm going to be 70, 80 years old. I'm not going to give the fuck about what's going on at the time. Right? So
now's the time,
for
baby.
me, those are the 3 times in your lifetime that this comes up. So as soon as I started to realize that blockchain is that once in a lifetime advancement of human lifestyle, I was like, okay, this is a place where I can actually take, I know how I'm going to grow my core team business from 5 million now to 100 million.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how I was going to take that from 100 million to 1 billion. Right. And then I looked at Web3 and started to learn about NFTs and smart contracts and blockchain and the technology itself, and actually the different problems that the technology can solve, not just crypto and NFTs, but other things. And I was like, shit, this is it. I've got to do this now.
Yeah.
And then I started to look for what is my place in this ecosystem.
Awesome.
So, and I just started to research, talk to people, do the same thing as I did when I was 18 to learn about everything. I just restarted doing that again. Just, I just got on the phone to people. That's it. Just started talking to them.
And so how do you think you found your place other than in the research, and take us to the journey of you realizing this is my place?
I think I realized pretty quickly within 2 or 3 months that my place in this ecosystem was bringing experience,
Right.
and contacts,
Right.
you know, and a skill set that doesn't exist in this space right now, you know, in terms of sales. So I was like, okay, those are my 3 skill sets that I can bring here. The next thing I had to work out was how.
Right.
Right.
And so I'm assuming Novus Labs is the how.
No, yeah. So Novus Lab is I started planning it with the team in February 2022.
Mm-hmm.
We started to pull together small bits of it and started planning it in the background. And then I sort of solidified the idea of what it's going to be with the team. And we opened the server in October,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we're slowly building the community. But the idea is, you know,
so real quick, but before you go into it, this is how I kind of like to do it. Give us the 2 to 3 minute elevator pitch of Novus Labs, and then obviously you can expand on it. But it's good to get a concise, like, you're in the Shark Tank, baby. You got 2 to 3 minutes. What is Novus Labs?
Novus Lab is a company, is a company that's twofold. Is a tech firm that creates infrastructure products, SaaS products, to create solutions for corporates that are in Web2, right? Mm-hmm. And the second thing it is a media company that spreads the news and the knowledge about the tech that's coming.
Love it.
And it's a tech firm, it's a media firm. The sort of infrastructure that we're building is aimed at experiences. It's about changing experiences.
Right.
It's about changing. I think, one of the problems that metaverses, crypto has at the moment, and NFT projects have, is that when you get somebody to come into that community, or you get somebody to come in, they don't have a reason to stay.
Right.
They don't have an experience that they want to keep coming back for.
But everybody has utility, man. That's the reason to stay.
Do they?
Exactly.
Name me a utility that the top 10 projects have.
Honestly, you know what it is?
I know you were saying it in jest, but that's the answer I give to everybody.
Right. And I would say my talking to a bajillion founders in the space at this point, I would say the 2, and they're not even utilities. To me, there's 2 things. It's a new way to form a club, and all innovations in the space so far have been new, better marketing mousetraps, whether it be grind a Discord, whitelist giveaways. Now you have to fill out an application and be chosen. All it is marketing hype. And people have done interesting things in it, but that would be my response to you. Yes, no real utility.
Yeah, there's no real utility. I think the like you said it perfectly. The for me as well, the single most important skill set right now that you need to build an NFT project is marketing.
Yep.
Yes, you need a great dev.
Yep.
Yes, you need a great artist. But I think the single most important thing you need is a marketing team that can get it out there. Whether that's Web3 marketing or Web2 marketing, it is marketing. Yep. Some people say to me, "Oh, this project didn't market." Yes, they fucking did. They had alpha callers in their server that were calling their project in every other freaking server. They were doing collabs. They were doing this. That's a marketing plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Web2. I come from brand advertising for a company, Geico Insurance. We had over $2 billion a year budget in marketing. I know very intimately what marketing means, right? But it doesn't work in this space because this space is about hype and cloud and influencer marketing and who you know and networking and community. And you can't pay your way through that. It's a totally different tactic.
So we're focusing on two specific goals. One is to create infrastructure to bring Web2 companies into Web3 or ideas for them. And two is community enablement within the NFT space.
Love it.
And what I mean by community enablement is that at the moment, apart from Yuga Labs and Azuki, I don't think they've enabled people. I think they just have incredibly creative communities, right?
Yes, they
but
do.
I haven't seen a project outside of these creating shit coins and tokenomics and blah, 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 actually create a revenue stream for their holders.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what anybody says and says, I'm in it for the art, I'm in it for this, I'm in it for that. 95% of the people are in NFTs to make money.
Yep.
Right? They're either going to make, the only way they have making money right now is either if you give them airdrops, which you then make incredibly successful, or that's by flipping your NFT.
Yep.
Right? There is no other way. What I want to work on with Novus is community enablement, which is how do you enable your community and your project to use your brand to make money so that they don't have to sell your NFT.
Yep. Right. Yeah, because I always now approach a project. I'm like, well, shit, man. Can I afford it? Because I need to buy two. I need to flip one, and I need to be able to hold one if I genuinely believe in the project, right? And so my entry point is always like the power of twos, and it shouldn't be that way. So take us through. These ideas are interesting. You obviously are an insanely fascinating person. I believe in you. What we do here is again, we understand the power of leaders. We have a very concise mission statement. Leaders are giving direction and being clear about what you're trying to do. Here, we're trying to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection and expose the real people behind Web3 and NFTs, because that is the most important thing out of anything that you can learn in the space, right? So we did that tonight, and we did that by learning about you as an amazing human being and going through your trials and tribulations and getting to the point that you are now. I think your ideas are interesting, and I think you have the chops to be able to manifest those ideas and make them come true. I'm interested. You're getting me pretty hooked at this point. What do I do to be involved in Novus Labs?
Well, you can be involved anyway. It's not a problem. You know, it's about. Well, I would love to do more podcasts with you. You know, the interviewing other people, etc. You know, and bringing them in.
Yeah.
But if anybody, you know, we host. It's one thing building a community that collectively holds a lot of experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
It's another thing getting them to share that.
Yes.
Right. So now what we're trying to do is build platforms, which is where our media company comes in, right? Where we're trying to build platforms like Twitter, our think tank on Twitter, our the podcast we do ourselves, the information we're about to start on YouTube. You know, all of these ways is where we're now going to bring these experienced people, bring people from Web2 that have the creativity, and just smash their heads together and get them to talk. But get them to talk not in a private room, openly on Twitter Spaces on a think tank.
Yeah.
Right. So other people that are listening can experience. So how can people get involved? Come in, listen to those, you know, give input into those. We are probably over the next 2 weeks. The server at the moment has been completely locked and invite only. You know, you have to, even if you go onto the website, you can't see anything on the website until you have an access code from a community member.
Right.
So we're thinking of relaxing that for a little while over the next 2-3 weeks to really, but what I wanted to do was really get our messaging clear about who we are, what we're doing, before we started to bring new people into the community.
Right.
You know, at the moment, the 120 people that are in the server, in the community, are people that we've built relationships with over the last 12 months.
Yep.
These are not new people that have come in the last month. I mean, there are about 10 people that have come in new, but the remainder are people that we've put real effort in with them, and they've put real effort with us.
I love this. And so what I'm hearing right now is You've kind of honed this vision in, which is clear, helping bridge Web 2, Web 3, and you've got two spears that you're really working down on, and that's tech enablement, tech innovation, and marketing and media. So right now, someone like me that has been in the Web3 space doing media marketing, that may make sense as a fit, right? What does the future look like if you love Web3 and are in the space? One, you gave a solution, is just show support through Twitter Spaces. If you are creative, make it known to you that you're creative and you have something to offer. Do
Well,
you?
we're doing it by recommendation. They would have to do things like get in touch with someone like you, and then express to you that I want to get into Novus.
Okay, love
Right.
it. And so that's
And
that's
be
an entry
recommended
point.
by you.
Yeah,
You know, that's got to be their entry point. It has to come from a recommendation right now. You know, that's how this core community has to be people that are willing to add value continuously.
I love it.
You know, if they're not willing to add value continuously, if they're not willing to play their part in this, right, then we're not interested.
Yep.
Well, you know, so they've got to express to you, I want to be a part of it. This is why I want to be a part of it. Then, because, you know, I'm going to turn to you.
Yeah.
When you know, if they're not playing their part, I'm going to say, dude, get them out. You know, what should we do?
Yeah. No, I love
Right?
this. And so,
It's
is
about-
there? Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we're quite upfront with our characters and how we hold people responsible. It's extreme ownership.
Yeah.
I take responsibility of every action that I take,
Yep.
but I'm also very, very clear in the communication I have and the way I deliver it to everyone.
Right. I love that, man. And so, is there NFT collections or way that the public can be involved that not necessarily wants to be in this core nucleus of, I'm creative, I have a skill set, I want to contribute to the core cause? What is the future, the next, 4 to 6 months look like for you? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so the next 1 or 2 months really is about building a core community. When we mint the NFT, which will come probably in at the end of Q1 or the very start of Q2, that's when we're going to mint our NFT. It's only going to be 750 passes, but that's where, if you just want to come in and enjoy, if you just want to flip, we're ready for any type of person that wants to come in at the time. You know, why are we creating an NFT collection? Well, number one, it's the caliber of person and the contacts that we're bringing in. Number two, it's the Web2 companies that we're speaking to at this moment in time. So, for example, we have an agreement now with a merch manufacturer or a clothing manufacturer who can get really high, quality clothing at very low prices for all NFT project owners that are members of Novus.
Right.
You know, imagine being able to buy a $250 hoodie for $20. Right, and then being able to give that to your community. So we're bringing in contacts like that into the community, so you'll have access to things like that. The second thing we're doing, which we is linked to our staffing business.
Do not give out too much information. My number one advice to all project founders: don't say anything is usually the best if you're thinking about saying it or not. So whatever you want to share.
Let's just say that we, people need to remember that I own a staffing business. I've got 15 years experience as a headhunter.
Yeah.
You know, I think, have worked out a solution of how to generate, I was talking about community enablement.
Yeah.
So we think that we've worked out two things. Number one, how recruitment companies can enter the NFT space and why they should enter the NFT space.
Yep.
And number two is the first step of how a community can earn a decent revenue that on a monthly basis without having the NFT regarded as a security and without it being reliant on a shitcoin.
I love it, man. And that is, you have it. The future of Novus Labs. So, man, it is almost quitting time. Anything else you want to add about Novus Labs till I kind of ask my last two questions and then wind us down?
I would say, people buy from people, people buy into people. If you want to get into Novus Lab, I'm never going to tell you what my full vision is in my head, but my goal, our team's goal, is to go out there and create the next 100 leaders. So if you want to become a leader in the future, you want access to mentors, you want access to business solutions, you want access to business products that will help you set your business up, that will help you set your Web3 business up, NFT business up. You want mentorship to do better in your job, in your career. All of these, we're bringing all of these things into the Web3 space over the next 12 months. And you're going to be able to get access to all of that. So, if you haven't heard about us now and you don't want to be a member of Novus right now, I can guarantee you that in April 2023, you're going to want to sell your mother to get some money to come and buy an NFT to be a part of Novus. I can guarantee you that for a fact.
Well, that's a good way to end that. And so with that being said, bro, unbelievable conversation. 2 questions, and then I'll give you my closing comments and we'll part on way. But this is the beginning of a friendship, I promise you that. First question, almost 2 hours, man. Felt like 10 minutes to me. I hear my echo again, by the way, bro.
It should be gone now, I think.
Okay, cool. I still hear it. It's just so weird why that's happening. I don't get it, man. I think
I'm using the mute button now, so it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I think it went away. Any questions for me? I just peppered you with two hours of questions. We like to give this courtesy to our guests. If you don't have any questions for me, totally fine. We'll be talking plenty in the future.
I'm not going to let you get away with giving me 2 minutes of questions. I'm going to get you onto my podcast and rip you an anal.
Fine, love it. All right, so you heard it. I'm getting ripped an anal on his podcast, and we're going to have fun doing it. So that will be covered. So first question done. Last question. I'm sure you have listened to your fair share of Twitter Spaces, done podcasts, obviously done a lot of speaking engagements. Would love to get your feedback, thoughts on your time on the Midlife Crisis podcast and how you think it went.
I think it's a lot of. I've enjoyed it. Who doesn't enjoy talking about themselves?
Yeah.
Right. So it's from my side, I've enjoyed it. I hope I've given your guys, some good things to listen to, and hopefully I'm hoping that some of the things. I think you brought out some good information out of me that I haven't been interviewed about myself like this probably ever. So it was good to talk and really reminisce, and because as I was talking to you about my youth and stuff, it brought up memories and images of my friends that I haven't seen for 30, 40 years. So people that I've grown up with. So it was good.
Dude,
I enjoyed
it. I love that. And honestly, that's the best compliment that you could give us, because we have that feedback a lot, that we can get some information out of people that they didn't realize that they would say. And that's why we're here, man. Like you said, whether you're a billionaire or not, you pee, you shit. We all bleed red blood. It's the same color. It's the same shit. And we're all people.
Apart from Elon, he's an alien.
He bleeds green goo. But yeah, man, I mean, that's why we're here, to be genuine, connect on a genuine level. And so I'm glad you felt that, and I appreciate it. And my closing comments for you, man, phenomenal conversation. One of the betters that we've had. Unbelievable treasure trove of content. We are going to cut the shit out of this podcast. And you want media and marketing? I got your back, buddy, because we got a lot of gold from this. We'll be cutting that up over the next couple of days for you, sending that along your way. Of course, feel free to use it however you want. But my reflections on the conversation, I connect with you on so many levels with, it's so important, I think, to fall and go through hard times. And if you can learn through that, have the support network to not do shitty things and take those moments and learn and grow from them, amazing things can happen. Obviously, you're proof in the pudding right there. 2, you just seem like a good, interesting guy. So thank you for taking the time. And then 3, that's it. Want to talk about proof in the pudding? Bro, you started talking at 2 a.m. It's almost 4 a.m. your time. Didn't bat an eye, never gave me a hard time about timing, means the world to me. And then I always close it off with the people we really connect with, man. We just had a 2-hour friendship born online. Not a lot of people have that opportunity, but we just did that. And I consider you a friend. And I cannot wait, and genuinely mean this, I cannot wait to win together, because I know we will do that. So thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good speaking to you. And yeah, thanks for giving me the airtime. Really appreciate it.
So with that being said, Midlife Crisis is out for the week. Maddie Mintz is coming back on Monday. We will be back next week. We have a full slate so far. We freaking love you all. That was amazing. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Glad to have you all back. Midlife Crisis.